Hi, everybody. I'm Timothy Mitchell, the Practical Printer. I've been on a bit of a hiatus, but I'm back. And I have a guest. I have a very good guest. This is Josh Cormany. Josh, welcome to the Practical Printer.
Hey Timothy, how you doing? Glad
I'm
you could
doing
have me.
I'm very glad to have you. I've known you for a very long time when you were Mr. Big Fish, and you were one of the big fish in the industries. And I ran into you at the last big event at Printing United, and you were working for Media One. And I said, well, what are you doing for Media One? And you said, I'm working very heavily on the DIMENSE printer and all of the applications and testing and everything because Media One, as I found out, which I didn't know, is involved in the printer hardware business. So tell me a little bit about Media One, what they're up to, and what they're doing with the Roland DIMENSE products.
No problem. Media One. So we started Media One in 1999. It was official in 2001. And we initially started with vinyls, the industry standards. And we discovered a new print technology where you didn't need dye sub transfer paper anymore. And you could print directly to the fabric sublimate all in one process. And we were extremely young, and we thought that we could kind of revolutionize that market segment. And that's ended up what happened with the Degen printer. Um, and after that, all we looked at was how can we continue down this path of finding these markets that we can, improve upon. And
Okay.
dye sublimation, and we kept coming back to dye sublimation. We started working with other printer manufacturers. Now we distribute the HP Stitch. We're the national distribution channel for Cleaverick, the calendars.
Right.
We do the giant 3 meter and 5 meter Matic Helios laser cutters.
Cool.
And then we do all the sewing machines. So I feel like we're the only true company in the industry that can show the whole workflow from start to finish when it comes to dye sublimation. And
Yeah.
now they're ready to conquer some new territories, which is home decor. That's where the DIMENSE DA-640 comes into play.
Sure.
um, it's a very unique technology that was brought out, about 9 years ago, and it's just now that Roland's taken it over, they've done a great job marketing, improving upon the new version. So I feel like it's been a long journey so far, and I feel like it's only the beginning. I feel like now with Roland behind it and supporting everything, that it's now ready to kind of set the industry on fire.
Okay. Cool. I think that's fantastic. I think it makes. I've always associated Media One as like one of the largest and biggest media material companies,
Yeah.
particularly 3.2-meter rolls of fabric and lots
Yes.
of it
That's our
all
core
over the country.
business. 3 meter,
Yeah,
5 meter, and not many companies. We've kind of mastered the transportation of these goods, and everyone here, all the sales reps, all the key employees, these are people that have been with us in the industry for 20 plus years, and I feel like they're all kind of at the top of their game as far as really knowing what they're talking about. And when you're dealing with the larger customers, it really goes a long way when the sales team can really prove that they are the company they should be dealing with. And we've done a really good job at proving that to the right clientele on the grand format side of sublimation.
right. It kind of makes sense that you would also be involved in the whole workflow because I look at DiceHub as a workflow.
Yes.
Obviously, Matic makes a lot of sense. They make phenomenal products. I'm a big fan of Cleaverick. I've done some work with those guys in the past. I would certainly recommend them. I have close friends of mine that love their Cleavericks. And so that makes a lot of sense. You have a fantastic and broad portfolio of media. And so then when I saw that you guys were involved with the DIMENSE, which I saw that almost when it came out, I was up at a Canadian trade show and I said, wow, that's really cool. I love the idea, but my thought was, I'm going to wait until they work the kinks out of this
Yes.
thing, right? And I knew some people, here locally in the Atlanta area that bought one, and they said, yeah, wish we'd maybe waited a little
Yeah.
longer for the kinks to get out of it.
Yeah.
Um, so the early generations they were a little slow. They had some registration problems. Can you tell me a little bit about two things? Give me a general overview of how the technology works, and then also, can you give me an understanding of what has Roland done with these current iterations that's different from the past?
Well, the easiest way for me to explain it is these ink chemists in Lithuania developed a solution that made material raise up. And more specifically, when they put their specific solution down on the paper, it would make it so the print would not raise up. And they started purchasing Roland chassis and putting their ink systems into the old Roland chassis. And they connected with a phenomenal heater company. Like the heater on these units is it's the number one most important part of that
Okay.
printer. And the heaters on these machines will probably last 1,000 years. They're very sophisticated heaters, and that's kind of the key of the process. When you get their chemical that's in the ink, and it's a latex based ink, the CMYK is a latex based ink, and then you got 4 slots for the structure ink, and that structure is what allows your media not to raise up. So
Okay.
when I first saw it, I thought, oh man, they're going to use so much of the structure ink, but it was the exact opposite. So customers
Okay.
think, oh, I'm going to have to use so much of this ink, and it's actually the opposite. You don't use very much of it, and you emboss the whole image, and wherever you lay it will keep it flat.
Okay.
Um,
I do say this, the final product, the finished product in the hands of a designer who understands the capabilities is
yeah,
phenomenal. There's
I mean,
nothing like it out there. It has like a raised impasto embossment that is absolutely gorgeous, and there's nothing in its equivalents in the market today. I don't think UV comes close.
no, it sure doesn't. Well, I mean, one of the first clients I met, they're very large in the wall space industry, and I showed them the technology, and they were doing some form of that with a UV printer. And when we got to the nuts and bolts, it was like 39 layers of ink, and it was about 9 square feet an hour versus a couple hundred square feet an hour. And the ink cost, everything, they were about equal for this customer. But where one was the speed, he was running very expensive equipment, and to offer this type of printing, it would never make sense for those types of companies with UV printers to replicate
Okay.
this.
So speed is a big part. Productivity is a big loss on the UV just because of how long it takes to put all of that, all the
Yeah.
layers down to give you the raised technique that would be compatible.
Yeah. This is all done in one pass. So it's pretty crazy how they did it. And I've been super impressed ever since day one. I felt like this machine discovered me. I didn't discover this machine. The whole story of how it happened is such a bizarre, interesting story, not for today. But when I tell you how the whole process happened, it is. I look back at it, I'm like, wow, talk about right time, right place, right people. And I've stuck with it ever since. And now that I'm here with Media One, that was the first thing when COVID was happening. My old company had closed down, and the old president asked me what I was doing. I had this DIMENSE printer in my back pocket, and instantly he's like, "What do you need from me? What do you need from us?" And I'm like, "I need your showroom and your technicians on a national level, because this is going to go big." And ever since then, that's what I've been doing, is trying to build this technology with the right market, and really just educating the market on what it can do, and then letting them go crazy with it.
Okay. Tell me a little different about the two approaches. There's two printers.
Yes.
Obviously one is sort of like entry level and one is tier two. Can you tell me about the two? Is Roland's kind of taken over like a big part of this. So it's three pieces. It's the company itself, which is Vieka. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, Vika. I mean, everyone says it differently. I'm probably saying it wrong. So
All right. Well, hopefully they'll be at ISA Sign Expo and they'll correct us. And then Roland has kind of invested in it, understanding. Look, they were the hardware arm of this anyway. Vika's the technology piece of the puzzle. You're mentioning that these heaters are very critical to the success of this. And then you guys are an experienced distributor that knows, I mean, you know the market. You know what the home decor market is. You know what people are going to want. And I do kind of think this is a product that, to my way of thinking, is going to require somebody who's has a design sensibility to take advantage of what it's capable of doing.
Yes, 100%.
Like if you have a really good designer and that designer can utilize what this printer can do, you're going to start seeing these type of prints pop up in very high-end type retail or showrooms or I think clubs, lounges, anywhere that signals status and aesthetics. You're going to
100%.
see designers popping up in these places and people will see it and go, how is that done? And that's when this thing is going to take off.
Yeah. And I have some very, very special customers that were early adapters of this technology to where these are things we'll never see in our lifetime. And the places where this is up now are places I'll never get to experience seeing. But when you see what this can do in the hands of a real artist, it's truly mind blowing. Like every time I visit this customer and I see what they're doing, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. It's just that impressive.
Yeah. So you're going to be at ISA
Yes.
2026 in Orlando next week.
Yep.
What's your booth number?
We
I
are.
always make sure I know that before I ask that.
It is the Media One booth, booth 2441,
Okay.
and specifically, this is what we're showing is the DIMENSE DA-640.
All right. Good. Is Roland going to be at the show?
Roland will be at the show, and they're hosting a few sessions on the paintable version
Okay.
of that's another aspect of the machine where you can just print and paint with whatever paint. So they'll have a machine in their booth and they'll be having some demonstrations, and then I believe we'll be the only company there displaying it, and should be good.
Good. So you guys are kind of staking out like the expert territory on this product to be able to demonstrate that we know our media, we know our customers, we know this printer, and they've kind of tasked you with being like, the know everything about the
Yeah.
DIMENSE guy. Good. They made a good choice.
Well, I got to prove it to them. But no, so far, ever since the October Printing United show, it's really, really taken off.
Good.
Brought on some really great customers. Everything's going very, very smoothly, and everyone's super excited about it.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to do a lot of speeds and feeds because I think really I know this thing is relatively fast for what it does. Speaking of the painted versions, I saw a painted version of an earlier gen, which is down here at Parallax, and that's the first thing I noticed is, look, I didn't know how it was done, but it was absolutely amazing. The raised technique is just gorgeous, right? And this was in the Gen 1 version, the first groups that came out.
Yeah.
This obviously has a lot of refinements. And if somebody wants to know about what all the refinements and the adjustments are, they would just go to your booth.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part is the machine used to be a very big, I wouldn't say clunky, but it was just untraditional compared to what a normal Roland printer would look like, or any other normal wide format printer. And the newest version, Roland, I mean, it blew me away with the improvements of how they replicated the heater and how they placed the heater on the machine, the way the ink flows. They've added different heads. Just the ease of use. That's really the biggest thing. The ease of use. It's incredible. The first unit, I needed techs to support me. It's like, hey, I want to make some stuff. You guys help me out. They let me build this whole entire demo center here, and I did it all by my own. I was pulling the rolls, everything 100% from the ground up, just to show the market, hey, if I could do this, think of what you can do with it.
Right.
And we had an open house a few weeks ago, and super successful. And we're just excited with the ideas customers are coming up with it.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward. I'll be obviously at the show. I'll be in your booth. We're going to do some video work, and also I'll go visit Roland and see what they've got going on the same product because I think DIMENSE is really great. I like being associated. I'm always very interested in new technology, especially stuff that stakes out sort of the high-end artsy-fartsy market. And And this is like artsy fartsy ground zero. The prints on this thing are just exquisite. So folks, if you're at the Sign Expo, swing by the Media One booth and take a look at this thing and look at, you're going to have a whole bunch of samples and stuff, right? Good. Josh, thank you for joining the Practical Printer. See you at the show next week. All right. Absolutely. Bye.